Hello everyone, you're listening to another Scots Whay podcast, and on this podcast I spoke with writer Douglas Skelton. His recent novels feature a central character called Dominic Queste, The Dead Don't Boogie and Tag You're Dead, and they are two of my favourite novels of the last couple of years, and you can read the full reviews of them over at the website. So it was a real pleasure to get Douglas on to talk about those books, but also his previous series of novels, the Davie McCall series of books, crime novels set in Glasgow, as well as his influences, which are varied, as you will hear, and also his non-fiction and journalism, which also looks at crime. It's a fascinating discussion. We could have talked for much longer, but we also have to remember that there's people listening who have things to do and places to go. So with that in mind, I'm going to stop now, and you'll hear Douglas, and I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as we did recording it. Hello everyone, and welcome to another Scots Whay podcast. And today we're joined by the writer Douglas Skelton. Hello Douglas.
Hi there, thanks for having me along.
No problem at all. And we're going to talk primarily about the Dominic Queste books, because that's how I first came to know your writing. But also you've written non-fiction and biography as well. We might touch upon that if we get the time. But the most recent book, Dominic Queste book, is Tag You're Dead. Tell us a little bit about that first.
Well, Tag's the second in the Dominic Queste series, and in this one he uncovers a serial killer who has been operating unbeknownst to the authorities for quite some time, and becomes a target of that serial killer. But what the killer does is uses Queste's film Buffy, if that's a word, against him, and torments him with film dialogue and clues and all sorts of things that he's gleaned from Queste's own collection.
There's a game, Tag Your Dead suggests it, but it's a real game playing between the two of them, a kind of cat and mouse going on. It also obviously allowed you to indulge your love of film. Is that the correct word?
Yeah.
Because this is one of the things that I was drawn to, and the first book as well, is there's some fantastic cultural references, and you get to almost play along because you go either, oh yeah, I know what he means by the reference to Scream or something,
yes,
or, oh, I don't know that, I'm going to go and check that out.
Yeah. I've been criticised because some of them are obscure.
I think that's great.
I think that's a wee challenge. They might be obscure, but Queste, being Queste, does explain them as well. So that's not too bad. But yeah, it did give me the chance to indulge my own film Buffy and have a bit of fun with it, because that was the whole point. Although these are not comic novels by any means, that both of them can get pretty dark. There is an element of fun with it because of Queste's outlook, because everything that he does and perceives is filtered through his love of film and also TV.
Yeah. It feels to me like you're playing with the whole idea of crime fiction genre, and the noir genre in particular, and it's almost as if Queste is fulfilling a role or playing a role. His language, he's it references. He speaks like Mickey Spillane, but in West Coast of Scotland, basically.
Yes. Somebody said that what I'd done is taken the West Coast crime genre, which is the West Coast of America, and planked it onto the West Coast of Scotland, and that's exactly right. That's what I was doing. I wanted to bring this whole American feel to the tartan noir, which is a phrase that I hate, but we'll use it anyway. I just wanted to bring this whole idea, and Glasgow is particularly good for this because we are a very American city.
Absolutely.
And have been for decades. It's not anything new. I was listening to the radio, they were talking about Americanisms and creeping into our language, but in Glasgow that's been the way, I would probably say, since the 30s. Since the talkies came in, and Glaswegians have been very much influenced. In fact, the city was known as the 51st state for a while, and that gave birth to a very, very good burger restaurant.
I remember it well.
Which is now no longer there, unfortunately. But so that was the whole idea, and have a bit of fun with the genre. I just felt that, you know, we're getting pigeonholed with this, and I wanted to maybe just have a wee bit of fun with it, and my first 4 crime thrillers were the Davie McCall books, and they were very, very much based on reality.
Right.
They were still thrillers, but everything in it was entirely possible or plausible. With Dominic Queste, I wanted to spread my wings a wee bit, and so if I wanted to have a shootout in the middle of Alexandra Park in the East End, I would do that with Dominic Queste. With Davie McCall, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But with Queste, yes.
I think it's true in Glasgow. I would just think of pretty much the whole work of John Byrne, the artist. You know, rock and roll, country western, just movies, as you see. Just there's a real obsession with that, particularly I think 30s, 40s, 50s culture.
Yes.
That was the obsession that Scotland seems to retain. You just have to think of the Grand Ole Opry, and it's
very much so. Yeah. Very much so.
So right from the start, did you think with Quest, I'm going to have fun with this as a writer? And then you also brought in other characters who, again, you could say play a little bit with the same stereotypes from different movies. I'm thinking of Father Vernon, who seems to be, you know, Spencer Tracy.
In fact, I actually say it looks like Spencer Tracy.
You play with
right,
that.
I would hit the nail right on the head there.
And you've got people who Quest probably would see as malls and dames, but they probably don't see themselves that way at all. Well, I guess what I'm saying is it's almost like he's, I don't know if you know the Alan Grant graphic novel The Bogeyman. So this was when this character is in a hospital and breaks out, and he thinks he is Humphrey Bogart in The Maltese Falcon, and there is a touch of Quest in Quest that he is creating his own. I suppose we all create our own personas, but he's really going for it with the.
He does, but then reality comes in, and he's confronted with a body, and it does tend to take a lot of the bodies that he has this habit of finding in his stride, and what I'm trying to suggest there is that this is nothing new for him. You know a certain amount of Quest past, you know about his drug addiction, you know his fall from grace. He was an investigative journalist. He became hooked on drugs because of through the work. He lost his job, he lost his friends, he lost his fiancée, all through that, and that's all there because it's all there in the books. His father Vern who saved him. But between then and the opening of The Dead Don't Boogie, we really don't know what he's been doing. And what I want to imply here is that he's been doing all sorts of different things. And yes, so bodies are nothing new to him, so he does tend to take them very much like you know, professional police officers, and it's in his stride. Doesn't mean he's not affected, but he's used to it. But then, as I say, reality comes in, and in this one, as they say, it's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye. In this one, the reality comes in because he finds himself face to face with this ruthless killer, and a lot of the fun in Quest disappears then. And I don't know if you noticed that, but the wisecracks that he has do taper off once he gets to that stage. Being him, he still can't help himself when it comes to it, and then it ends kind of on a downbeat note, which always appeals to me as well.
It's a very West Coast of Scotland thing as well. I think that kind of, how do you deal with serious matters? Well, we deal with it by making fun of it, or by, you know, making a light-hearted quip, or just having a joke. Gallows humour, I suppose, and that's what he does, but he gives it his, I don't know, Spillane or Quest twist on it.
Yes.
So how did you decide that this was the way that you were going to go down? Having done the Davie McCall books, which I haven't read myself, but as you say, they were more serious, they were more perhaps closer to life, real life crime.
There was still a strong thread of humour in them, because I do strongly believe that no matter how dark things are going to get, as you say, somebody is going to make some sort of wisecrack, particularly in Glasgow. where the books are set. After I did the fourth Davie McCall, I thought I need to try something different. It still had to be in the crime genre because that's me. That's what I read. That's what I'm interested in. So I played around with a few things, and then finally I just hit this idea of telling a story, of doing a kind of private eye idea in Glasgow, telling it in the first person. Although controversially, for some chapters I come out of the first person. I didn't realise it was controversial at the time, but it seems that it is. And I have this kind of freewheeling approach to the storytelling, but also tell something that is really, really fast. The Dead Don't Boogie, I wrote the first draft in something like 12 weeks.
Okay.
And that was at weekends and at night at the time. And it just kind of came out in a flood. I had no idea what it was about when I started. I just had this idea of it starting in Saltcoats, because I like to go to glamorous places. And so it started in Saltcoats, and I knew that Quest was going to be a kind of private eye without actually being a private eye.
Right.
I knew that he was looking for somebody. I don't know who he was looking for and why. That all just came with the writing, and then I got to about 3/4 of the way through, and the idea was to take Chandler's advice that whenever your storyline is kind of slowing down, have a guy kicking the door with a gun in his hand. So that was the whole approach to the Dead Don't Boogie, and you can actually see that at times. Then right, there's a body there. There's going to be a wee action beat there. There's going to, it's bang 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 bang, all the time pushing forward this storyline that I had no clue what it was. And at one point, about 3/4 of the way through, I said to myself, I better stop now and figure out what this is all about. So I actually had to stop writing and think. And I'd sit with a pad and write down the various elements that I had. The girl being chased. You've got a drug dealer up from London. You've got gangsters in Glasgow. You've got these mysterious guys, and then the mysterious killer who pops up in the park, who kills and walks away. Who's he? Why is he after her? And finally came up with with what the plot was essentially. And that's what first drafts are for. So I got to the end of the first draft. By the end of it, I knew what was happening, so then I could go back in subsequent drafts and start threading in the clues and making it fit.
And is that the way that you've always written?
I'm afraid so. Yes.
No, I'm genuinely interested because I haven't spoken to a lot of writers over the period. Some people say I couldn't start a book without knowing exactly where it was going, and who's going to go where and all this kind of stuff, and they fill their board with post-it notes and things like that. And then I've got, folk like yourself, I just get a blank page and I go and I don't know where it's taking me, and that's part of the pleasure because I don't know where it's going to go.
I wish I could plan. I wish I had the dedication and the patience to sit down and plan, because it would make things a lot easier, but I'm far too lazy and far too impatient. Once I've got the idea, I just want to start writing. Now, it doesn't mean that often I haven't got an idea of how it's going to end, because I do sometimes know how I want to get, where I want to get to. But it's between A and Z, that's where the fun comes in. How do I get from there to the end? And that's where the fun for me comes in. But I would still have the same amount of fun if I was planning, because you'd be doing the same thing. But I just want to start writing. I just want to get stuck in. I think it's a journalist,
right?
And you don't have time to plan as a journalist. Now, as a journalist, you sit down, you write it, you press send, and you're on to the next thing. I think that's maybe what where that comes from. With the Davie McCall books, the fourth book was actually written first.
Right.
So I knew where I wanted to get to with the series.
That's interesting.
So although each individual book had its own storyline, which was more or less resolved within that book, there was still a story arc and various things that spread over the 4 books, or went from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4, and so I knew where I wanted to get to. So everything was sort of dovetailed towards that.
So did you had book 4? Did you then go book 1, book 2, book 3? Or
yes.
Or did you,
yes. Okay. I went right back to Blood City, which was set in 1980. and did that Crowbait and then Devil's Knock, and then had to rewrite the fourth book, which eventually was called Open Wounds, because I'd come up with other stuff in the other three that I thought, well, that doesn't work now, so I'm going to have to change that.
So did you have the end, because as you say it's a kind of downbeat end, did you have, or a slightly down end, did you have that for Tag Your Dead?
The very end?
Yeah.
Yes, I knew that was what was going to happen right at the beginning.
Okay. So we've got this character, Dominic Queste. See, this is
it's an easy mistake.
It is an easy mistake to me, and I'm just about to tell you why. So you have this guy who just loves his film, loves his television, and was that something you wanted to do in the pages that you had? I'm going to just enjoy referencing these things.
Yeah,
and putting them out.
Because a lot of this stuff, not all of it, I've got to admit, but a lot of the stuff that you see in these pages is filed away somewhere in my head, and it was nice to get all of this out. And I mean, I can do what Dominic Queste does. I will quote films, and I will put film quotes in my everyday conversation. A lot of people don't catch it, but I get some sort of self-obsessed pleasure out of it. So
what are you talking about?
Yes, that does happen. People look at it and say, you say the name of the film, and they sort of frown and think you're some sort of weirdo, which is probably true. But I was also a big fan of things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and they would do exactly the same.
Absolutely,
exactly the same. There are other programmes that have done it, but Buffy's, I think, is the big example to me, because a lot of the way they approach, the way that these characters spoke in Buffy, I like and have tried to replicate in a lot of ways in my own dialogue.
I mean, I think that's a great point of saying that's almost when television changed in terms of it was referencing itself. I mean, it had happened before, there was comedies and things like that which did it, but here was a big drama, supposedly a teen drama, but it was right across the board. Everyone
was a lot more than that,
and was kind of referenced itself. So that then allowed for things, some more successful than others, but a lot of them did that. And the television that we have today, this huge, I suppose Twin Peaks before that slightly, but this huge, the way that we view television changed, I think, with Buffy, and the way that we thought about television itself, because they had a musical episode, and then they had other kind of themed episodes they went through, but you never lost
that's
the
right.
trail.
There's another series called Psych,
right,
which very few people apart from me in this country have seen, I think. And it did exactly the same, and tremendous dialogue, but a lot of film references, and they did a musical episode as well, and it's a crime thing, but it's very, very flip, very, very offbeat, and a great fun, and it was just to try and tap into that notion.
Well, and I would say I could see possibly the same thing happening with the books, because the second one to me feels it's got a touch of horror in it as well as crime. And you reference horror films, and you've got this fantastic protagonist. The bad guy, for want of a better term, in this is I don't want to give anything away, so I won't. But you try to understand his reasons for doing what he's doing, and actually that's what makes it kind of terrifying. And there is characters in the corridor, and people that you think might be one person but maybe are not that person, and so it plays kind of with real kind of horror themes, like you might in Halloween or something like that. Classic horror themes.
I didn't want to go down the same route as Boogie. Where Boogie was this chase thriller, if you like, and really fast paced. So for the second one, I wanted to not as much slow the pace down, because I do think it still moves pretty fast, but it's just not the non-stop action that Boogie seemed to be. There are elements of horror. I hope that I scare the reader a bit, because that was my intention. But still, I hope they have a good time reading the thing.
How do you feel about getting the balance right between the humour in it and the levels of violence, which particularly in the first one are really quite. I mean, I don't think I could go for a walk in Alexandra
No.
ever again without looking over my shoulder.
Yeah, the first one did have a very high body count, and I think it was just because that was the kind of storyline that it was. The violence, I mean, it's not overt violence, as you like. There's no sadism,
No.
anything like that, and there's nothing, particularly. I don't go into great detail. There's no torture porn or anything.
No. It's good guys and bad guys.
It's good guys and bad guys. It is an action. I mean, let's say Boogie is an action thriller. Tag is a chiller.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
When I come to the third one, I hope to do something different again, but in the same style and with the same characters, which will give it the link. But again, a different approach, a different kind of story.
I think to do that, you've got to have a really strong central character to you, and I think that's what you've got. So you mentioned the Davie McCall books. Just to go back onto that, although you said there was humour in that, what was the driving force behind that character in particular?
Davie McCall, can I just say he was very hard to write, which was another reason I did Dominic Queste, because Davie doesn't say a lot. Everything with
Which is difficult.
is everything with Davie McCall is internal. He's the bad guy in the corner, if you like. If you're in a room and there's 4 or 5 bad guys, the one that's quiet in the corner is the really dangerous one.
Clint Eastwood character.
He's the one that you've got to watch, and that's what Davie McCall was. But everything was going on inside of him. So my idea with Davie was that just about everybody in the books would misunderstand him.
Okay.
They would think he's the bad guy in the corner, but the reader would know that he's actually not, because everything is internal. So the reader is privy to what's going on in his head, and he didn't want to be this hard man,
right?
But his life dictated that that's what he becomes. His history, his life, everything about him dictated that. But right from book 1, when he's 18 years old, he's kind of kicking against it.
So the character who wants to get away from this life.
He wants to get out of the life, as I call the underworld. And all 4 books, that's really what he wants to get to do, but he can't. He keeps getting drawn in, and because he's good at what he does, which is frankly hurting people.
Yes.
He's always just when he thinks he's out, they pull him back in, and he's got to do something else. But along the way, he kind of helps people, but it's not recognised by anybody else.
So you, in all the books, it seems you've got a character, or more than one character, because I think the Sutherland brothers in the Dominic Queste books, who are good at violence, for want of a better term. You know, they have an aptitude for it, but they have decided we are now only going to do this with at least morally justify it to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, if we've hurt our friends, then we're going to hurt you back.
Yeah.
We're going to protect certain things. We have things we think are right and things we think are wrong. That's an interesting thing to do in a book, I think. You know,
what I'm writing really are westerns.
Yeah.
This is because I'm a huge western fan, and this is the whole ethos of a lot of the classic westerns.
Yeah.
Now, we'll talk about one in particular, which is a huge influence on me, which is Shane.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah, absolutely.
The book and the film. And that is a character who is good at what he does. He's obviously, you don't know anything about his past, but you know that he's fast with the gun.
Yeah.
You also know that he's put it aside. He's got it wrapped in this cloth all the time, and he brings it out when the people who he's come to care about are threatened.
Yeah.
And that's what Davie McCall essentially was Shane.
Yeah.
Even to an extent, Dominic Queste, because he's trying to put his past in the past, and the Sutherland brothers are trying to make up in a lot of ways for the things that they have done in the past, and they're helping Father Vernon his mission to not to clean up Glasgow, but to help the abused of the city. And not necessarily sexual abuse, but also the young drug addicts, young prostitutes, anybody, the people that live on the streets. He's trying to help, and they assist him in that. So it all goes back to this whole Western idea of the character with the dark past who's trying to change.
Yeah. The one I thought of was Clint Eastwood in The Unforgiven, where at the end where he can no longer...
That's another
he
example.
He can no longer look aside. So they're in Glasgow, all the books are set in Glasgow, and it does seem to me that Glasgow in particular, and it might not be Glasgow in particular, but it's the city I know best, but it has a slight obsession with crime. Would you say that is fair enough?
Yes. I think because we've got this image that we're a crime-ridden city. We're not really. We're no more crime-ridden than anywhere else. But that's the image. And you've got the hard man image of the Glaswegian, which we cultivate.
Yes.
We might kick against it and say, oh, it's not right. But we do kind of cultivate it. And people like me don't help matters much either. But... It's a beautiful city. It's a great city.
Yeah, of
but
course.
Yes, we do like our crime.
But I'm thinking as well of the real life crime. There's not many bookshops anymore, so this wouldn't be the case. But when there was a lot of bookshops in the city, you would often go and there would be biographies of a certain local gangster or such and such. Usually down by the aisle, weirdly, you could buy a bag of Maltesers and buy a biography of whoever.
Easy for shoplifting. And
you've also got this odd magazine that you used to get in my local newsagents, The Digger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which I've just found out as a Facebook page, by the way. I get, which is about, it's basically a magazine kind of about crime.
Yeah.
Do you think it does go to this mythologising about the Glasgow hard man, or is there something more than that? I mean, I can't think of many other cities that might have a prominent crime lord for what, his funeral on the front page of the newspapers, as has happened.
But again, this is where we link up with America, because they're also
the Don and all that kind of thing, idea,
and have been since the rise of the mob in the 20s. I mean, Al Capone became a kind of Robin Hood figure in a lot of ways, and so do a lot of our Glasgow gangsters. We do. You're right. We do mythologise them, but they mythologise themselves.
Yeah, and
a lot of them don't like this. The really serious ones don't like the attention. They like to operate under the radar, but they do come to prominence, and they do become folk heroes, for want of a better term. I'm not saying that people think they're wonderful, but particularly in Glasgow, we're fascinated by them. I think that perhaps it's maybe we're all just 2 steps away from being that ourselves. Who knows? Particularly somebody like me, I come from Springburn. I could easily have gone that route if I was so inclined and I wasn't such a big fearty. But I think the same could be said for a lot of Glaswegians.
And again, going back to the characters in the novels, these are guys who are caught up in this world for various reasons, and are trying to not get out. So I don't think Dominic Queste is trying to get out, but he's trying to do the right thing within that kind of circle.
Yeah, well, he's got out. I mean, thanks to Father Verne. I mean, he was. It says at one point.
But he's still in.
He's still involved in that, but he's no longer doing the drugs. And to be honest, he's doing just what he can do. He's got to earn a living.
Yeah.
So he's not a real private eye, but he still makes a bit of money on the fly, doing what he does. In the first one, somebody comes to him and says, "I understand that you find lost souls," which is a kind of writerly dramatic way of putting it. But he doesn't look at it that way. It's just something that he does.
In the books, you've also got the police. Turn up, who are fantastic characters, and again, you've made them individual people with their own views on Quest, and therefore their own views on what's going on in the books as well. Was that an easy thing to do for you? Because I think a lot of writers, sometimes it's just like, well, they're the cops, they've got the white hats on, and these guys have got the black hats on, and that's it. But you kind of made them more individual than that.
Yeah, but because they are.
Yeah. But a lot of people don't want to.
I know they don't, but they are.
Yeah.
And again, that's a noir approach as well, because the cops would be involved there, and they would all be individual, and they wouldn't necessarily be, squeaky clean.
Yeah.
And certainly in the Dominic Queste books, there's none of them that are particularly corrupt, because that's not the way I'm going with that. But with Nick Cornwell, you feel as if there's a violence there that could erupt at any moment, particularly directed at Queste. But then you have the young detective Teresa, who's a bit more open-minded to it, but even by the time of the second one, she's beginning to see Queste for what he is. And who's to say that they're wrong, because Queste will pull strokes and he will keep things from them, and he will go and do things that he should not be doing.
I guess it's not they're some people write them as one kind of entity, but that they're almost bumbling fools and one pace behind what's actually going on, whereas you guys, they might be a little bit behind Queste what's going on, but they're still kind of sometimes helping him. Usually sometimes not helping him, but in his way. But it was the way that you could almost do a book with those characters in it as well.
I mean, again, that's important to me. I think that you have to pay attention even to the smaller characters, and I think you have to try and make them distinctive. There's no point. I'll be honest about it. I will have characters who come into a story, and I've done it from the very first book, with the explicit intention of killing them off.
Right.
So the sort of crime fiction equivalent of the red shirts in Star Trek. As soon as you saw one, you knew that person was going to get phasered or something, whatever it is, or eaten by a rock monster. And I'll do that in the books as well. But I do think it's important that if you bring a character in, that you make them a character. So they will have something about them. I've got the woman in Tag, who's got this one wee bit of information to give to Queste, who talks to him in the street, and she's talking about her husband and her dog. And that there's, to me, if somebody could come along and say, well, you could actually cut that out or just boil that down, and that would take away some of the flavour.
I absolutely agree.
For me, and the interest for me is this interplay between her and Queste and the things that she's saying, and he doesn't know when she starts to talk to him that she's actually going to give him a bit of information, and she specifically targeted him to give him this, but she builds up to it. She
gives a flavour, as you say, of the book, of the city, of the kind of person that is, the kind of neighbour looking through the curtains and everything, and all of these characters, I think, add to the greater picture. You're right, you probably could get rid of a couple of them and just then you lose.
You could, but then I think you lose a bit of the flavour. And it goes back to, again, for another popular cultural reference, to a show called Hill Street Blues. And I used to watch that avidly and be amazed that the tiniest character in that had obviously had attention paid to them by the writers, by the director, by whoever the actor. And they came to life. Ed McBain, who is one of my writing heroes, did the same. You would have tiny wee characters who were in it for a page, but for somehow he managed to make them step off of that page and stand beside you as you're reading it, and that was a real skill. And I try to do that. I'm not saying that I'm anywhere near as good as him, but these are my influences, and this is what I try and do.
But these are interesting comparisons, because you have your big characters that are there every week, and they've got their own storylines which maybe run across the whole series, or even sometimes over the whole programme, or the whole set of books with Ed McBain. And you're happy to see them again. When I used to pick up McBain, Steve Carella, fantastic. But as you say, every time there's got to be new people brought in, because some people might watch it for the first time, and so these characters have to be strong. Otherwise, folk go, well, who are these bunch of folk?
They're just people that they're meeting as they investigate whatever crime it is in that particular book, and they're just questioning them for a page or 2 pages or a chapter, but they become real people because he was a terrific writer, and he had this ability, and to do it with such economy as well, because he didn't need to spend a lot of time on these characters. You knew by the way that they reacted and what they said, and you got their character. And I try to do that. There's another character in Tag, a young student who shared a flat with somebody else. I don't want to say too much, and he's only in it for a chapter, but I hope that young guy becomes a real person. because of the way that he interacts with Quest, the way that Quest reacts, and Quest's own reaction to everything is generally kind of flippant. But I do hope that he becomes real and walks around the room with you.
And gives another twist on the city as well, and who you might meet in this city.
Yes.
Because that character and the wee woman on the street would probably never meet.
No.
But through Quest you get to meet all of them, so you're actually...
That's right, you're seeing different facets of the city.
So how... I mean, you've written non-fiction as well, and as you mentioned, you were a journalist. So apart from meeting deadlines as a journalist, what is the difference in writing? What do you find more difficult, I guess, put it that way? Was it the writing about real-life crime or fiction?
They both have their own challenges. The beauty of doing the real-life crime is that you don't need to make it up.
Yeah.
Because it's already there for you, but what you have to do is find a way to tell it that is interesting to the reader, and hopefully, depending on what you're writing, finding something fresh. The gosh moment, which is, gosh, I didn't know that. You know, when you're doing, when I was doing that, I was always looking for that one wee thing that would hopefully make people say, "Oh, I didn't know that." So in fiction, obviously, you know, the world is your oyster. You know, you can create what you like, but that brings its own problems as well, because you've got to try and make it at least believable. Maybe not exactly plausible, but you've got to establish this world where you will believe that a man can fly. You know, if you're doing Superman, you have to make your reader believe that a man can fly. So how do you do that? You make him an alien. So in crime fiction it's the same. How do you make them believe this particular set of facts that you're going to present in this particular order? So that is actually quite difficult.
Now you're not doing any journalism anymore.
Well, some people said I never did it when I was doing.
But I mean, how was that going back to Glasgow's obsession with crime, or whatever, West of Scotland's obsession with crime? How was doing the difference between the fiction and the everyday, day-to-day stuff? And what was that? Must have been reasonably difficult, I would imagine. Yeah,
I mean, I was never really a big city newspaper man. It was always local, the local weeklies. So, you know, important issues to the local people, but you know, in the scheme of things, you're probably not that important. So, you know, there was a difference between sitting at a desk, and I was an editor as well. So basically, as an editor, you know, you just sit and drink coffee, and you know, the staff do all the work. At least that's the way I tried to work it. So there is a big difference. It's harder work to sit down and write in a lot of ways, particularly if you're working, you know, during the day and then having to go home at night or at weekends when you wanted to watch something in the telly. And that's the hardest part about writing, whether it's, you know, non-fiction or fiction, any kind of writing, is that there's so many distractions out there. You want to go and watch something. I'll have a wee break now and I'll go and, you know, watch that in the telly. And that's the worst thing that you can do. You need to get it done. You need to, you know, force yourself to do it. I
remember Louise Welsh saying to us, never trust a writer, not trust a writer, but a writer with a tidy house isn't working hard enough.
Yeah. I must be working really hard.
And well, again, I suppose with the writing about crime in fiction and non-fiction really interests me, because in the fiction you can give a kind of moral dimension to it that maybe isn't there when you're writing the non-fiction, because by the very nature it's real, and so sometimes morality goes right out the window.
And it's not my job. Again, I take the journalistic viewpoint as it's not really my job to dictate to people on the morals. It's my job, when I was doing the non-fiction, it was to tell the story, try and make sure that I get it right. You don't always manage that, but it's not my job to tell people what to think. That's the way I look at it. I know a lot of journalists do think that they should tell, but I don't believe that I personally should be telling people what to think. When I did the book on the ice cream wars, the Glasgow ice cream wars, with Lisa Brown, like when we set out with the mission statement that we were not going to say to people that these men were innocent. We were going to present every facet of that case that we could possibly get at in the time available, and present it to the reader and let the reader decide whether or not there was something in the conviction or not.
Right.
Now, we were criticised on both sides because of that, but that was the way that we approached it. That's the way that we wrote it. That when we did the publicity after it and everything else, that was always the way that I would always say, well, this is what they said, this is what they said, and this is what they said, and put them together and say, well, decide, what you think is right.
So what do you think about fictionalisations of real crime? I'm thinking it's happening. It's a lot on television at the moment, and obviously in film. But there was the Peter Manuel one recently, things like that. I mean, how do you view those? Just depends how well they're done.
It really does depend how well done and the approach. I thought the Peter Manuel one was actually quite good. Yeah, and it was quite accurate as well, which surprised me because I thought they would go way off in Flights of Fancy, but they didn't. So I did quite enjoy it. What got me about that is not what they had in it, but what they didn't have in it, because there was so much more to that story, and I think they could actually they could do another series based on the trial alone. Another 3-part series based on that trial, because it was an incredible trial. So that sort of thing. I watched the O.J. Simpson one. Yeah, I watched that as well. I thought was absolutely terrific. Yeah, and again, I knew about the O.J. Simpson case, but I didn't know all the ins and outs. Yeah. And I thought that was an incredible. And they gave the trial the proper. It was an incredible piece of work. Yeah. I haven't seen some of the other ones that are lauded, but I certainly saw that one. What do I think of them? I think I'm in two minds about them. Part of me enjoys them, but the other part thinks, well, what about the families of the victims? How do they feel about this sort of thing? Yeah. So from that point of view, it does concern me. That was one of the reasons why I stopped doing the true crime. Yeah. Or certainly doing more modern true crime, is that I started to feel guilty about turning these things into entertainment, because that's what I was doing. Yeah. I could dress it up as much as I like. Perhaps not the Ice Cream Wars book, but certainly some of the other ones. I could try and say, well, it's important that we keep these cases and blah, 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 blah. But in the end, I was boiling it down to entertainment. Yeah. These were people's lives and deaths. I think that's what always sat slightly uncomfortable with me, with the obsession with crime in the city. It became an entertainment. These people became characters, and sometimes the victims or whoever the other families were probably forgotten. And I remember going to see The Craze when it first came out in the cinema with the Kemp brothers, if anyone has ever seen it, from Spandau Ballet, and thinking, well, this is actually quite a well-made film and all of that stuff, but something just didn't sit right with me about it. And there's been a few since then. I mean, a few set in this city as well. Yeah, well, you've got The Wee Man. Yeah, that's which I watched it and I thought it's actually quite a good gangster story, but it's in no way factual. I think there are a few bits of it, but they've really gone off on a wee bit of fantasy with it. And is that a good idea? Yeah, but I would have preferred it if they had changed the name of the character. If they wanted to do that, then change the name and just tell a gangster story, and it would have been quite a good Glasgow gangster story. Yeah. But they didn't. They kept it to Mr. Ferris. And I've no idea what he thinks of the film at all. But I think it was unfairly lambasted. Yeah. It's not a bad film. I think the problem is, as you say, is because it's in recent memory as well. I think perhaps a bit more respect could have been shown to the facts. There was a film that Billy Connolly did. I think it's called The Debt Collector. I want to say is that. Yeah. Basically based on Edinburgh. Boyle. It's Edinburgh. But I think he is from Glasgow and then goes through to Edinburgh, and he's now the artist and all that stuff. Yeah. He's got the big house and everything, and he's no longer violent. And then you've got this youngster. Oh, I can't remember. Ian Robertson plays this young guy who is obsessed with his earlier times. The kind of, for what, sense of freedom, time, if you want to talk about it that way. And
and kind of follows him to Edinburgh and gets in. And because the names have been changed, I could kind of say, okay, I can kind of watch this and actually think it's a very good performance with McCall, for instance. Yeah. But I think you're right, when the Wee Man came out, it was just like, okay, that if you're going to use these names and you're going to fictionalise parts of it, then it becomes a bit problematic.
Yeah. But the Debt Collector was fiction. It just used this notion of a gangster, because Jimmy Burrell's not the only one who turned to art.
That's right.
It's just used that idea of the gangster trying to go. It's very much the kind of thing that I write, trying to go straight and then getting drawn back in, and then of course you get the cop who just can't believe that he's going straight.
Yeah, that's right. That's a fascinating area. So, what I guess is next for yourself? What do you?
I'm hip deep in a wee book about amazing and extraordinary facts about Scotland that I was asked to do. So that's to be finished by the end of May. And after that, I need to decide whether or not I've got other ideas. I've got a lot of other ideas, but I need to decide whether or not to do another Dominic Queste or rattle or something else.
Well, I hope you do another Dominic Queste, because I love the books when they come out. He's a great character. It feeds into, I've said this to you before, my sense of humour, my idea of what a good crime book should be, and also I pick up new references every time.
Well, thanks very much.
Douglas, thanks for coming to join us this morning. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back soon with something completely different. Cheers. So that was our podcast with Douglas Skelton, and I think it's a fascinating listen for anyone interested in not just crime writing, but writing in general. We'll be back with you very soon, and we're going to be quite excited about our next guest, but we'll leave that as a tease because we don't want to spoil the surprise. See you soon.